Oh, that was quick. Hey guys, it's Will here with How the Frack We Got Here. Just bear with us. We're actually going to get started in the next few minutes. Just have to get some particulars out the way, but stick with us. We'll get started momentarily. Oops. Alright guys, I think we're going to go ahead and get started on this. So let's go ahead and get this down. So today's date, March 16th, 2019, and this is How the Frack We Got Here. I'm your host and most Will Buchanan on How the Frack We Got Here. We usually go over the last week's events and also try and make sense out of it all. For all those that are watching, welcome. Just to let you know this is an adult podcast, which means adult content, language, and things of a graphic nature may be shown, so viewer discretion is advised. Hope you guys are all having a wonderful Saturday. And I do apologize for last week. I know we didn't get a podcast out last week. My apologies. So this podcast, just a head warning, is going to probably run a little bit long because we're going to be covering news from the week before and currently. So let's just go ahead and get into it. I would be remiss if we don't initially talk about what happened in New Zealand, which honestly our hearts go out to them as far as the terrorist attack that's happened out there. But like I said, you have to be under a rock if you don't know what happened.
Is and will be one of New Zealand's darkest days. We have all the fatalities, family friends that we've known for 19 years, dead, people who are there for my engagement, dead.
First we hide behind the cars and, under the cars, and then when we see the firing still on, we try to, jump the fence.
We were listening the gunfire, a loud sound, which was continuously happening for 10 to 15 minutes.
I was thinking that he must run out of bullets, So what I did was basically waiting for that and praying to God, oh God, please, let this guy run out of bullets.
What I want to tell you right now is that we had no agency had any information about these people.
These are people who I would describe as having extremist views that have absolutely no place in New Zealand and in fact have no place in the world.
We're such a small community, we're so kind and loving, so I just don't understand why someone would hurt us like this and in such a way, just like an animal. Like, why would you treat us like that? We've done nothing.
I'm getting angrier. I was gone from shock and I'm getting angry and very indignant. Everyone should feel safe to pray however they want.
And it's definitely, like I said, definitely tragic. As far as this being one of New Zealand's worst acts of violence, actually, let's just call it what it is. It's terrorism. Just because of the fact that it was actually done by at this point that one white male has been charged with murder. The other three are still under suspect, but all of them are 4 white males. So immediately you would think that, and also one of them had a manifesto that actually referenced Candace Owens, in which he's already turned around and denounced it, sort of. But then Candace Owens is a black Tommy Lawrence, so what do you expect? She's going to turn around and make it all about her and then just get away from the story. But anyway, going from that, it's amazing to me whenever we see something like this and the shooter is Caucasian, and they have nationalist or I like to call them extreme racist tendencies. And of course, President Trump actually did the presidential thing and, of course, extended his support out to New Zealand. And this was after he signed his first veto against his border wall, which we'll get into a little bit later. But here's what he had to say when asked about the situation.
White nationalism is a rising threat around the world. I don't really. I think it's a small group of people that have very, very serious problems. I guess if you look at what happened in New Zealand, perhaps that's the case. I don't know enough about it yet. They're just learning about the person and the people involved. But it's certainly a terrible thing. Terrible thing.
One follow-up on New Zealand. The killer in this tragic incident wrote a manifesto. Apparently, did you see that?
I did not see it. But I think it's a horrible event. It's a horrible thing. I saw it early in the morning when I looked at what was happening in New Zealand. I just spoke, as you know, through the Prime Minister. I think it's a horrible, disgraceful thing and a horrible act.
Yeah, it's a horrible thing and a horrible act. But he still cannot turn around and say, I mean, he called white nationalism a small group of people. How? I mean, I shouldn't be laughing. I really shouldn't be laughing. But it's comical how he says, when asked about white nationalism, I think it's a small group of people. No, they're your entire voting base. Your entire voting base was based off xenophobes, racists, and nationalists. There were so many of them, they're divided into different groups according to their hatred. Do you know, and the thing about it is, Trump knows this because he's not going to speak bad about his voter base. So asking him about the rise of white nationalism, he won't talk about it. Say about the migrant caravan that he was touting about for weeks on end. This migrant caravan that's coming up from South America all the way through Mexico and eventually going to reach our borders. He couldn't stop talking about the migrant caravan. He couldn't stop talking about the number of things they were bringing, the crime, the disease, and everything else. He couldn't stop talking about it. But when it comes to white nationalism, I just think it's a very small group of people. I don't think it's a bad thing. Keep in mind, we have 2,000 years of history with white nationalism. But you guys don't. I mean, it's like, we'll say it, but the president at the seat of the table, this idiot that got elected, will not say it. But he'll say it's a small group of people. Like it's just a drop in the bucket. No, it's not a drop in the bucket. It is literally the whole damn bucket at this point. But the one thing I will say about New Zealand is that they've actually taken one step farther than I thought was humanly possible to be done in a country. Where the story about this is, and this just recently came out, that literally after the tragic event, they've already moved forward in wanting to ban semi-automatic rifles. So the AR-15 rifles and things of that nature that we're seeing here in the U.S., New Zealand is moving forward to have those banned. Think about that for a second. I mean, think about how crucial that is. New Zealand had an act of terrorism happen in their country. And instead of waiting for 1,900 gun deaths to happen, gun death related events to happen, they sat there and said, fuck that noise, we'll go ahead and ban semi-automatic weapons. So think about that. They're banning semi-automatic weapons in less than 24 hours. And at the same time, you still have half the U.S., well, what are we about? 1,900, about 80 won events involving gun deaths or gun tragedies, we still argue about what's considered semi-automatic and what's considered to be bannable. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm a gun owner, but there are some guns that even I don't need to have. Like, for example, nobody can never tell you why an AR-15 is needed. An AR-15 is just a basic civilianized version of the Army M4, which is basically a fully automatic weapon. The AR-15 is semi-automatic, which means it's not firing continuously, but it can be altered to where it can be fully automatic if you find the right gunsmith. Now, of course, completely illegal in the U.S., but folks love to carry these types of guns. Now, don't get me wrong. I have nothing against the Second Amendment, although the funny thing about the Second Amendment is it wasn't intended for the actual thing that people think it was for. It was really for us fighting a tyrannical government, which at this point, the government's bigger than us. So, again, you have the right to arm yourselves. But I love the fact of what New Zealand has done, which is basically saying, we're going to stop it at the source. And of course, people always sit there and say gun laws don't work. Criminals always still find guns no matter what. And I sit there and say the same thing. It's like, no. It's the thing. It's amazing to me how you keep on saying laws don't work. This won't work. This won't work. Okay, then what is the route you want to go? Because you can't say the common course can't be corrected if you're not even trying to steer the ship. That's all I'm saying. But again, props to New Zealand out there for literally and figuratively saying, putting their foot down and going, no more of this. Not at all. But I just want to say props to that one, because that's pretty much them saying, you know what, we're not dealing with this shit. We're going to handle this in the way that we know it's going to be handled through legislation. And like I said, definitely thoughts and condolences out to those who have lost lives, family members, things of that nature, through a senseless act of white nationalist violence is what it is. I mean, the president won't say it, but we need to go ahead and say it. But anyway, like I said, guys, it's kind of be a bigger show than usual, so I apologize because like I said, still catch things back from the week before, especially with the Michael Cohen. As far as Michael Cohen actually giving testimony, and here's a little bit of it, and I'll explain about what I thought of from there.
Went very well. I believe that they're happy with my responses. It's been a long day. It's been a long couple of days, but again, I believe they're happy, and I have given them my assurance that any additional information that they need, I'm here to cooperate and will continue to cooperate. So thank you all very much.
There's Michael Cohen, followed by his lawyer, Lanny Davis, emerging a second block of reporters waiting up on Capitol Hill to get a
We're everywhere, Wolf.
At first he said the lawmakers were satisfied. Now he says they're happy. This is an extensive process that everyone is going to be going through right now, especially White House officials who are watching this so carefully.
I noticed that Michael Cohen said everyone was satisfied. I doubt everyone was satisfied. There are Republicans on that committee who are not particularly happy with him. And yes, the White House is going to be not only scrutinizing what he said last week, but talking to the members that they're close to on the committee about what they need to be aware of going forward. But it's been interesting to see the White House not really getting into the nitty-gritty details on this. They are not disputing the facts of what happened or what might not have happened, and that's very telling. They're going after Michael Cohen as a person. They're trying to attack his credibility as a person. The president is pointing people to this book manuscript that he tried to peddle over a year ago, but they're not dealing with the substance, and that can be a problem for them because, as we've been discussing, Michael Cohen threw a lot of things out there, and it's enough, really, to fuel several committees for many, many months to come with oversight.
Which is why coming back with what he says is evidence to back up some of the things that he was talking about last week. It is really critical because of the kind of witness that we all know he is, that Congress knows he is, but also given all of the different elements of investigatory pursuits that Democrats who run the House already are taking and running with.
And you have to actually give credit for that on that one, because the thing about Michael Cohen, which they don't want to talk about, which is interesting to me, is that, of course, Michael Cohen, who used to be the fixer lawyer for Agent Orange before he, even up until his point in the presidency, where during the Mueller investigation that he was charged with campaign finance violation laws, did come forward and say, yes, Trump did direct me to do this, I was doing that. And he pretty much labeled out everything that he did. Now, I understand that a lot of people are going to say, well, he lied about what he did, so why is he testifying in Congress? Well, pretty much, we honestly want to get an idea. Now, people are going, well, you're going to listen to a liar? Well, think about it. He's already going to jail. Cohen has already been sentenced to go to jail. So with that being said, there's no other point for him not for him to be honest at this point. He's already going to be going. There is no reduced sentence. As far as at this time of this podcast, I don't think Trump's going to pardon him because that's what everybody's expecting Trump to do. So at this point, what other reason does Cohen have to? What other possible venue does Cohen have to lie to get where he's trying to get to? He might as well just go ahead and tell the truth. Now, you can take it with a grain of salt as far as what he has said or what he didn't say, or how much of this is true, how much this is false. But at this point with the Mueller investigation, which I wish, on a side note, please stop saying the Mueller investigation is going to wrap up. Because, again, it's ain't even been 2 years yet. Keep in mind, it took more than 2 years for the Watergate investigation to wrap up to force Nixon to resign because he was about to be impeached. It took more than 2 years. And I understand the attention span. The attention span across the U.S. is not what it used to be. It's almost like it's a 30-second YouTube clip. That's how short the attention span is these days. Let it happen. Mueller is going to be done when he's done. There's really no point in rushing in or saying, well, prosecutors are dropping out and they're starting to send in documents. Let it happen. Because the only thing I want from Mueller is that I hope to William Barr, who is actually the attorney general that was just voted in. I hope you do live up to your promise of actually making the report public, because we're paying for this investigation. We ought to be able to see the results of what he came with, because only in our country could we pay for something we never see. We pay for a lot of things for the government to do that we don't even know about. And that alone should kind of make you a little bit angry, especially since the fact of the matter is that, when Kenneth Starr was investigating Clinton, which to me was the most biggest waste of money, we investigated a president that was getting blown in the White House. Something the history books will never say. We, as taxpayers, allow our taxpayer money to be investigated on whether or not Clinton got blown by an intern in the White House. The fact that the sentence exists, much less the history, the sentence alone exists. And guess what? The Kenneth Starr report was made public. So in this case, Mueller's report, which William Barr has the ability to do, should be public as well. But Michael Cohen actually giving testimony just gives the House of Representatives, which is mostly Democrat, the ability to start looking at other stuff. Because I can't wait for Maxine Waters to finally get into Trump's tax returns. Those tax returns that he said, that he said since the beginning of his campaign that he would show. Yeah. I mean, at this point, a lot of people have gotten their tax refunds by now, but Trump still hasn't shown off his tax returns. Now, you got to think, for a guy like that, what the fuck does he got to hide? A lot. Considering that everybody in his cabinet is either resigning, getting indicted, getting arrested, or going to jail, or all the above. Because, let's be honest, the only person I think that has nothing on him at this point is Sleepy Carl. That's right. I'm talking about Sleepy Ben Carson. I think I'm gonna be Department of Housing. I think I'd be Secretary of Housing. You made a neurosurgeon literally the guy who helps out with housing. And honestly, every time Ben Carson talks, I really want to go to sleep. That man has a voice that will put you literally to sleep. But again, going back to Cohen, like I said, you can take it from me. Well, I think it's great that he's actually testifying. And of course, because of the fact that he lied is going to bring up in question. But like I said, he's already going to jail. There's no upside for him to actually be deceptive toward Congress now. And speaking of those that are going to jail, also this happened the week before, which I thought was interesting as well.
Day, you've been waiting. You saw the 4 minutes of Manafort addressing the judge. Tell us everything you can.
Well, Aaron, you could hear the pin drop inside that courtroom as Manafort finally spoke. And let me tell you, one of the things that the judge raised when he finally announced the sentencing is that nowhere in Manafort's statement did he say that he was sorry for violating the law. And he said, the judge said, I was surprised that I did not hear you express regret. He says, I hope you reflect on that. And the fact that you did not comply with the law. And I think that's one of the things that the judge was struggling with here today. He said that 19 to 24 years was way too much. He says it was excessive. He says it was out of whack with the level of the crime that Paul Manafort had committed here. He cited a lot of cases, some of the cases that he had heard in this very courtroom, that he said he gave people probation or just a few months in prison. So he was struggling with the idea of sentencing Paul Manafort to 19 to 24 years in prison. But he also said that this was obviously a very serious crime, and that's why he arrived eventually at 47 months, so just under 4 years. I think a lot of people were surprised. You could see the look of astonishment on the look of a couple of on the faces of a couple of the prosecutors at the prosecution table. I think the defense has to be pretty happy with this result. And look, I think as the defense described, what they said, that Paul Manafort had the ability to pay a $25 million fine, $25 million in restitution and an additional fine. You could see Mrs. Manafort sitting in the front row shaking her head no. One of the prosecutors, Mr. Asanye, mentioned the fact that Paul Manafort still has ownership of two homes, one in Florida and one here in Alexandria, and he says the prosecution argued that Mr. Manafort had the ability to pay an additional fine on top of the $25 million that the judge just ordered him to pay. In the end, the judge decided that he was not going to impose that additional fine. But you can see that Mrs. Manafort was not in agreement with the idea of paying anything more than the restitution that he's already have to pay. He was a different man. Obviously, he spoke a lot more quietly. The judge asked him to speak more loudly because he couldn't hear him. And so eventually you could hear him in the courtroom. And look, he spoke very, very, very emotionally about the impact on his family. He said that this has been embarrassing and humiliating for his professional and his personal life. He also talked about the impact on his family. His wife was sitting just a few feet behind him.
Is he crying during all of this,
during the break, after he finished his remarks, during those 4 minutes, he turned and looked at his wife, and you could see his eyes were moist. They were a little red. And she just sat there silently as he spoke, and then eventually he just sat there quietly with his hands on his chin, sort of as his lawyers and everybody else in the courtroom sort of milled about. And so you could see that this was a moment where everything perhaps was finally hitting Paul Manafort after this 2 years of this investigation. You could see that this is finally the moment where everything was coming home to him.
Okay, so probably right now, like you're probably thinking a lot of you guys, you're probably pissed. Okay, so keep in mind this was last week. I didn't want to point this out. This was last week. So he was sentenced by the judge because the judge was a conservative judge. No big surprise there. That he gave Paul Manafort 47 months, which was less than 4 years. Now I don't actually have video of this, but keep in mind, that was for campaign and finance laws that he violated while under the Trump campaign. Keep in mind that there's still that, like during the week after that he still had charges from New York State. The state attorney general, the state attorneys and attorney generals in New York are going after Manafort, which means that he, on top of those 47 months. It's possible he can't get still the 25 years that he should be facing because right now that trial's still ongoing. So, like I said, I was a little bit ticked off because, let me get this straight, this man's influence, along with a lot of other people's, got Trump elected. But he also did some dirty and scandalous shit that he should answer for. And honestly, the funny part is, a woman who was a felon that voted, that did not know she could vote, got a measly 7 years. Manafort, who literally knew who possibly colluded with Russia, who also put Trump in touch with Russia, who pretty much got in the president that literally is not effective, and his influence and choices in that only got him less than 4 years. So you're telling me if I'm a felon and I vote that I can automatically be back in jail for 7 years? This guy could fuck up an election and only get 4 years. But then again, conservative judge and the white guy. You shouldn't really be surprised about that. But like I said, shouldn't get too mad, guys, because like I said, Manafort could still be looking at additional time. I still hope he does get 25 years because that's what he deserves. Because, the crime is the crime. Because if a black man did it, he would have got 40. But moving right along, now this other story, which I thought was also interesting and scary at the same time, because as a black man, you never know when the police are going to decide to fuck with you.
He's picking up trash and you have your hand on your gun? Go home. Go home. Dude, officer has his hand on his gun. Because he's picking up trash. That's a clamp. Zane. Gun in your hand. You're not listening. You have a gun in your hand. I haven't grabbed your weapon. Drop it. How do you feel about that? Tell me what to do. What, you're going to shoot me? No one's going to shoot me. Or you're going to tase me and arrest me and beat me like every No, don't tell me what to do. Get off my property. Get off my property. Get off my property. There's people out here committing crime. People out here doing real time. It's likely, it's likely, hey, you're angry and escalated, and it's likely you got profiled, okay? So we'll take it up at a different time, not right here, right now. You profiling son of a trying to shoot him for picking up garbage.
This is an extremely concerning issue, and one that we are taking very seriously. All aspects of this incident, specifically the actions of the initial officer, are being investigated.
This is gross, dude.
So what's interesting about that story is just that, as he said, so you're telling me a guy who's sitting on his own property picking up trash with a clamp, and apparently that the police profiled him and said it was a weapon. Oh, okay. So let me get this straight. And it's kind of funny with the guy sitting there saying to the cop, "I don't have a weapon. This is for picking up trash." In the video, you can see in his hand he has the clamp and he has the bucket. Clearly, the man is not armed, but the cop still more says, "You need to drop the weapon." He goes, "What? I don't have a weapon. This is a clamp." And of course, the bystander who's recording this, of course, is seeing it all. And then, when the other law enforcement officers show up, and it's like, well, you're escalating. What? It's amazing when you have backup body cameras, mace, and one-timers, which are guns, which are also known as guns. You have guns. So you have all of these non-lethal options available to you, but you always go for the gun. And I just think it's interesting where it's like, well, he's like, "Why are you profiling me? This is literally my property. Why are you harassing me?" And the guy goes, and it's something where another officer comes on there and says, "It is likely you got profiled." And here's the thing about this. I said, here's the thing, this reason why you have this big gap between law enforcement and black people. We honestly have a prejudice. I mean, we don't hate. Like, here's the thing. We say fuck the police all the time. I know I say fuck the police all the time because we have a prejudice toward it. We have a prejudice toward the police because they have a prejudice toward us. Because think about the fact of the matter is that for almost every black person out there, you can probably think on one in time where the police fucked with you and you did nothing. Like, seriously. We are the only people we are the only group of diverse folks out there who, from the time we were born into well off in our old age, we can think of at least one incident where we were being messed with by law enforcement and it was not of our own volition. This is why, training needs to be done, because I said before, like here in Tennessee, you literally could be a cop in less than 6 months, which I think is funny. You can be a cop in less than 6 months, but it takes you a full year and a half to be a licensed stylist, or to be a barber, or to be a contractor, things of that nature. Think about that for a second. It takes less time to be in one of the most influential areas in society, but it takes more time to be in a trade profession. That honestly needs to be relooked at the same time the trade needs to be looked at. And as I said, when it comes to it, well, they said an internal investigation, of course, the officer was going to be on administrative leave. They didn't say he was going to be without pay, because when it comes down to it, there's no way around that. These officers who profile escalate things a lot faster than anything else, and then they try to blame the black dude. Well, it's like as black men, it is difficult because you're having to be calm. At the same time, you're pissed because of all the people you go after. You want to come after me because the media will vilify me, the media will praise you. At the same time, whatever action I do, I'm condemned. Tell me I'm wrong. I mean, you look at a situation where a black dude was confronted by a cop. Has it ever ended well for the black person, considering their track record? And this is why I can understand why the guy who's picking up trash is angry, because he's trying to talk sense, and the officer is trying to use force. And that is one of the reasons why our law enforcement is fucked up, and that's why you have guys like me who will say, fuck the police. So, if I was going to change anything about law enforcement, because they always say, well, if you want to be a part of it, you have to join it. That's like saying if you get whooped by the mob, then you might as well go ahead and join the mob. And do what? You won't change the inside. There's too many white nationalists and racists that actually run the law enforcement divisions around here. So me joining it just means that you have a token person to sit there and say, we're not all bad because we got one of you. And that's the reason why, people will still be the way they are. And do I think law enforcement needs to change? Yes, because you need to stop going for lethal assessments and try to go for non-lethal assessments. Why do you think policing works in other countries, but yet it's so high here? Because those in the other countries have had higher training, better equipment, and at the same time, they learn to actually, be human, instead of just being this robot that you have to do monthly quotas for, that were set up in order to induce revenue in states, because Tennessee used to be big about that. Tennessee used to actually be very big about cops filing quotas. They still are, because a lot of the revenue that Tennessee actually gets from traffic citations. A lot of people, instead of going to court and fighting the ticket, would just rather pay it off and be done with it. So, of course, a lot of revenue got generated that way because nobody wants to go to court. Nobody wants to deal with a judge who acts like he's late all the time, although they're the fucking ones that are late. Nobody wants to spend all day in the courtroom trying to beat something off $50 when they'll just pay the $75 and be done with it. And that's the gap. That is the reason why that's the reason why the revenue generating machine known as ticket quotas are productive and profitable, because they banked on the fact that folks just simply don't want to deal with it after they get the ticket. Tell me I'm wrong. But anyway, moving right along, I do want to sit there and point this out also. This happened last week that I think was really cool, was that the H.R. 1 bill, which was the House of Representatives, was actually passing this bill that actually focused on three things: campaign finance, voting rights, and anti-corruption. Which basically, on campaign finance, it basically means that it's actually going to do the one thing that I've been wanting it to do, which is basically removing corporate contributions. Because the thing about that is, corporate can throw Brinks truck money at campaigns, and because they can do that, that actually takes away from the fact that those like us, whose opinions and influences are not being felt. So at the same time, removing that actual which I just wish it would be. I wish it would remove lobbying altogether, but that's a whole nother subject. But it does actually close the door on a lot of these individuals who will represent these corporations who are throwing money. I'm talking about you, big pharma, big oil. I'm talking about y'all thing. I'm talking about the coal industry, the dying coal industry that still influences. I'm talking about like corporations like Cigna, United Healthcare, and Aetna, who are still influencing the international drug market because we still can't go outside of our own country to get alternative prescriptions. That's where this campaign finance is coming from. Also, the same thing about this is, aside from the campaign finance laws, where it says when running for office proposing new disclosure requirements on the source of donor money, that's right. You have to sit. That's right for any politician that is accepting campaign money. They do have to turn around and let you know where it came from. That to me is awesome. But like I said, it's one of those things that still get pushed along. Another part of it is voting rights, which I've been saying this from day one. Our voting rights need to change. Like early voting should be expanded. Automatic voter registration should happen, or same-day voter registration. I honestly think that the fact of the matter is, if you are an American citizen, that you are automatically signed up to vote. I mean, other countries have done this to where you don't have to turn around and register to vote. You, by being a citizen, automatically have that ability. At the same time, what I love also about the voting rights is they're finally going to give voting rights back to felons, where it depends. Like for felony convictions, that as long as you didn't murder anybody or you didn't kidnap anybody or you didn't rob anybody, you actually have the ability to get your voting privileges back. So there's a lot of felons out there who honestly do want to vote, who have turned their life around, and they just want to be a part of society. They should be allowed to vote. And finally, the last part of the voting rights is that they want to make the election day a holiday, which means that what they say for federal workers basically means everybody. And the thing about that is, what I thought that was cool, like election day alone should have been a holiday. It should have been a holiday for a long time. Because let's be honest, for anybody that's tried to vote on election day, you had to go to the polls. Well, first and foremost, you had to figure out exactly what polling place to go to, get in line, show ID, wait to vote, which sometimes can take up which sometimes, depending on the county and how many polling places there are, can be anywhere from 5 minutes to 5 hours. And think about that for a second. And we don't even have online voting. Like, you should have the ability to vote online. I mean, we have all this technology in front of us, and we're not utilizing it because we're still going back to the same polling, same voting machines, and like I said, and then you have to register to vote and all that stuff. This voting rights portion of it, which I think is awesome, the only thing I wish they would add to it is that to allow online voting. That's the one thing I wish would be allowed. And then, of course, the last part is anti-corruption measures, which means that, going forward, presidential and vice presidential candidates have to show off their tax returns. And that's the thing about it. And also using paper ballots, which is also another thing for all those that may not want to use electronic voting machines. I love the fact that they sat there and did this, and I think that was a personal shot at Trump when they turned around and sat there and said, well, we want to put in, that you have to disclose your income tax returns. Because let's be honest, Trump hasn't done it yet. So we should show, not really surprised the fact of the matter that this gets put in there. But then again, I thought it was pretty cool. Now, keep in mind, the House of Representatives, which is mostly Democrat, actually pushed this forward. It now has to go through the Senate, which unfortunately Republicans still have a majority in. Now, will this H.R. 1 bill get there? I would like to say that it will, but realistically, you're going to have a lot of Republicans look at this and go, so wait a minute. So we can't take no corporation campaign financing with not anymore. Anything that we do accept, that we do have to report, voting rights are being established for felons. Automatically, but election day is a federal holiday, so people get it off. And on top of that, anybody that actually runs for office has to disclose their income tax returns. And they'll find every other reason under the sun not to do it. Now, will it happen? Will it not happen? That remains to be determined. I just love the fact that, for once, the Democrats finally got their unity down and actually managed to get something out that honestly should be passed because it is a very effective bill. But, when it comes to Democrats, I don't call myself a Democrat in any sort of the way. I sure as hell don't call myself Republican because Republicans have never had any views. Like, Republicans don't like minorities, women. They only love guns, ammo, and religion, and corporations. That's their religion, honestly. So I never consider myself Republican just because, and I never seen how people can be Republican just because that every one of the party's values goes against a lot of people. But then again, I digress. But going back to Democrats, the one problem that Democrats have is unity. It never can be as solidified as Republicans are, especially when, I'm going to be honest, one representative, like, I love the fact there are more women representatives in Congress now than there ever have been. But I honestly believe that they should be allowed to speak in the same sense that all these other Republican candidates and senators, politicians, and representatives speak. So if you don't know what Rep. Omar said, well, pretty much this is the idea of why certain measures got passed.
House Democrats vote this week in a resolution condemning anti-Semitism and bigotry. It is widely seen as a rebuke of one of their own, Minnesota freshman Ilhan Omar. Nancy Cordes has more.
I know what intolerance looks like. The latest comment to land Omar in hot water was this one she made at a D.C. bookstore slamming congressional support for Israel. I want to talk about the political influence in this country that says it is okay for people to push for allegiance to a foreign country. In response, her own party drafted a 4-page resolution rejecting anti-Semitism. Without mentioning Omar by name, it says her comment suggests that Jews cannot be patriotic Americans and trusted neighbors. New Jersey Democrat Josh Gottheimer.
As someone who's Jewish, the idea that you question my loyalty to the country as a lawmaker because of my religion is obviously offensive and deeply hurtful.
The president called it a dark day for Israel, and GOP leaders urged Democrats to go further.
Nancy Pelosi has to remove her from the Foreign Affairs Committee.
Speaker Pelosi shares the cover of this month's Rolling Stone with Omar, who is the nation's first Muslim congresswoman. But Pelosi also reprimanded Omar last month for a tweet about a Jewish lobbying group and money. I posted a Omar says she's being held to a double standard. Just last week, a poster was erected in the West Virginia state capitol linking her with 9/11. We get to be called names and we get to be labeled as hateful. Oh, we know what hate looks like. That argument has clearly resonated with some. Tonight, Democrats say they're going to be reworking this anti-Semitism resolution to include anti-Muslim bias as well. And they say the vote, Jeff, will likely get pushed off to Thursday.
Nancy said.
So this is the problem I have with this, and to give you guys some perspective where I'm coming from. So Representative Omar, which I love her because what did she say that was okay? Case in point, what did she say that was anti-Semitic? She sat there and said that there is a lobbying group that of Jewish-backed investors that are financing some in Congress for Israel, for things as far as Israel interest. Nobody said she was lying, and that's the thing. And honestly, that's the part where I sit there. I'm like, so I'm looking at, okay, was she lying? Well, it's anti-Semitism. Time out. No, wait. Anti-Semitism would be an insult to a Jewish person or a person of Jewish descent. She sat there and said that there's a group of Jewish people who are financing politicians in Congress toward Israel or Israel interests, and that the only reason that they still get a say in it is because money's involved. Yeah, I don't see where it's anti-Semitism. So, I mean, feel free to show it to me where you see it in that sentence. But to me, it's like, what did she say that was false? And again, she is a Muslim senator. She is a Muslim representative, which about high time we do have those in Congress personally. But it's amazing to the Democrats, and this is why I say this is where the Democrats fail, where the Republicans succeed. That no matter what one of their own says on the Republican side, they take it and they run with it. If a Democrat speaks outside the norm, they want to shun that person and then welcome them back into the fold. It never made any sense to me. Representative Omar, all she sat there and said was something that was very true. That there is a group like that exists out there. There is a group out there that does influence Congress like that. And at the same time, it's the fact that she's being called out because, she's had to face the opposition of a Muslim, being a Muslim and catching the hell with that because folks are doing the same thing to her that she is accused of doing to another group. I can see why she said that. And then again, I don't see any problem with, and then again, I don't see, really? You got an opinion? Sorry, my dog. Apparently he saw something outside. But yeah, I don't see where Omar dictates as far as that goes. I agree with her what she said. Yeah, there is money in politics, and it is coming from a certain area. We really shouldn't be surprised about that. But again, she shouldn't be. And it's kind of funny where they wrote the bill, and they didn't say it was really her. But yeah, you kind of hinted at it being her. So you really shouldn't be surprised about that either. And at the same time, you want to turn around, and then she turns around and says, there's a double standard because Muslims have been dragged in the mud, and you can go back and look at every news article in the last 3 weeks or so. They've been raising money for flood victims. They've been raising money for domestic violence. They've been raising money for those that have for others of other religions and different doctrines. You can't sit there and say, but the simple fact of the matter is that they've been anything but helpful to people who are not even of their own faith. But they still get the whole 21, they get insulted and they're being told to accept it. But when one speaks out against something else about another group out there, they're being held for it. And I think that's bullshit. But like I said, keep on doing it. Ma'am, please keep on. Don't stop. Because to me, that tells off the bat there's a lot of things the Democrat Party need to change. But like I said, unless Democrats are being united, this is the reason why Republicans still keep winning. But speaking of other Democrats, I do love that Senator Warren has announced that she wants to run for president, but she also has said this as well, what she wants to do. Sorry about that. So pretty much, Elizabeth Warren has sat there and said that there needs to be a breakup of big companies, big tech companies. And that's actually another thing that a lot of people are really, some of them are saying, no, they should be fine. What is she thinking about doing? And honestly, Elizabeth Warren has a point. Because, think about it. Facebook, for all those who survived the great Facebook crash that happened about 2 days ago, where you couldn't post, you couldn't do anything, you couldn't post on Instagram, and I've never seen so many people freak out about the lack of social media that was almost comical. But this kind of proves the point of what Elizabeth Warren was saying, that too many tech companies are kind of going along the ways of mergers. Now, for those who know what a merger is, it's basically when two companies come together to form one, and acquisitions are when a company buys another company, assuming assimilates it into itself, or just keeps it as a separate entity under a parent company. That being said, just like she said, Facebook bought the WhatsApp and Instagram, also another social media platform. So you gotta think, what if Facebook had purchased every social media out there? Let's just say, for an example, Facebook purchases, Brian, what do you see in the window? Puppies, gotta love them. So anyway, let's say Facebook purchases, just off the bat, every social media site out there. Let's say they purchase Tinder. Let's say they purchase eHarmony. Let's say they purchase every area. Let's say they purchase Black Planet. Even MySpace. Yes, MySpace is still active, if you don't know. because Tom gave us everything and we turned our back on him. But let's say Facebook owns all that. Now you got to think, that's a very powerful tech company that has so much influence in social media that, they could kind of dictate the narration of what they allow. Now, keep in mind, it's almost like when Facebook went along and decided to, I'm not going to say ban hate speech, but they started to looking at those pages more effectively and maybe remove some more extremist ones. Now, don't get me wrong, I am a fan of free speech, but at the same thing with the First Amendment, whatever you say, you are responsible for the actions that happen. You're not absolved from them. So let's just say Facebook decided that they no longer wanted conservative views on their Facebook page. Like anybody with a conservative page, conservative views, or a certain network, they now had to, their pages were taken down. Okay, so the pages were taken down. Now, a lot of people sit there and say, well, that's not right because you allow progressive and liberal views on there. Why can't I have conservative views? Well, if Facebook does determine that's what they want to do, what's to stop them? Because then again, it's their site. They can dictate and control what goes on there, no different than Breitbart or no different than the Daily Stormer or no different from the Daily Beast, things of that nature. They can dictate what's on there. The problem is those are small as far as those type of publications, and Facebook, let's be honest, is the largest social media platform in the world. That's the problem. That's the reason why Elizabeth Warren was pretty much sitting there saying, here is the reason why we're running into this issue, is simply put, because they have too much influence and too much power and they need to be broken up. In the same sense how mergers work, in the same sense how tech companies work. Because you don't want, at this point, there is never a good thing when one company owns everything. And in this case, tech companies are starting to be that way. But that's the reason why. But moving right along, there's also another thing, which I was finding interesting, where this actually happened. And this happened recently, and I still think it's funny. Where I'm pretty sure you guys have all heard about the college scandal, right? And I mean by the college scandal, let's just say well-off white parents were paying colleges to allow their kids in for literally for next to nothing. And they're starting to get arrested for it. Here's actually the beginning of the story.
William Singer will plead guilty today to charges of racketeering conspiracy, money laundering conspiracy, conspiracy to defraud the United States, and obstruction of justice. Singer allegedly ran a college counseling service and something called the Key Worldwide Foundation. Between roughly 2011 and 2018, wealthy parents paid Singer about $25 million in total to guarantee their children's admission to elite schools, including Yale, Georgetown, Stanford, the University of Southern California, the University of Texas, UCLA, and Wake Forest. Beyond enriching himself, Singer used that money to bribe college officials, Division I coaches, college exam administrators, all to secure admission for the children of his clients, not on their merits, but through fraud. Singer's foundation purported to be a charitable organization, but was actually a front Singer used to launder the money that parents paid him, of which he would then take a portion and dole it out as bribes to coaches and others. More specifically, with respect to the SAT and ACT scheme, numerous parents paid Singer between $15,000 and $75,000 to have someone either take the exam for their child or to correct their child's answers afterward. We have charged 33 parents nationwide with hiring Singer's group to defraud testing companies and/or various universities. These parents are a catalog of wealth and privilege. They include, for example, CEOs of private and public companies, successful securities and real estate investors, 2 well-known actresses, a famous fashion designer, and the co-chairman of a global law firm. Based on the charges unsealed today, all of them knowingly conspired with Singer and others to help their children either cheat on the SAT or ACT and or buy their children's admission to elite schools through fraud. Singer's clients paid him anywhere between $100,000 and $6.5 million for this service though the majority paid between $250,000 and $400,000 per student. This case is about the widening corruption of elite college admissions through the steady application of wealth combined with fraud. There can be no separate college admission system for the wealthy, and I'll add that there will not be a separate criminal justice system either.
Well, and there you have it as far as that goes. So pretty much, like I said, now keep in mind that was last week's as well, because before I start getting the names out, like for a lot of people, if you haven't already, like I said, you've been under a rock, you know that Lori Loughlin, you know, Aunt Becky from Full House, she's possibly facing jail time. Director Felicity Huffman and William H. Macy also in court. And I love the fact they keep on saying, well, there's still people, like I always say, well, it's famous actresses and whatnot. And I'm like, well, go ahead and say it. And I love the fact he said these are individuals with money and influence that want to get their children into schools. And if you look about it, like I didn't get a chance to actually bring up, but like Lori Loughlin's kid, who went to USC, had been on Snapchat pretty much saying, I didn't want to go to college. It's like, I didn't want to go to college. I just wanted to just to be on Snapchat and be on all forms of social media. And here's the thing that's always bugged me. I always sit there and say, college is there for all those who want to go. Granted, college is not for everybody. I still love the fact that trade schools, you know, when you had metal shop and auto mechanics and wood shops and music programs in schools that showed different other paths. Like, not every path leads to college. Nothing wrong with that. There's also nothing wrong with having an honest trade profession. There's nothing wrong with being a plumber, a constructor, electrician. There's nothing wrong with being a welder. There's nothing wrong with any of being a machinist. There is nothing wrong with any of that. Just because those are not only honor traditions, but they do have very well paying careers. Nothing wrong with that. The problem I have is just that it is kind of making a mockery of what we consider, like guys like me and people like me that love to go to college, that you busted your ass to get into college. You damn near have to bust your ass even more. You have to bust the other cheek more just to stay in college, stay ahead. And then, yeah, it does kind of infuriate you a little bit that you see kids like this who are literally surrounded by wealth can get anything they wanted because mommy and daddy paid somebody to get them into college. And on top of that, what the fuck does that say about the colleges that accepted them? I mean, that's the thing that's always bugged me so. I mean, like Trump's kids. Trump has paid the University of Pennsylvania for all three of his kids. And let's be honest, judging by the way they speak, do you really think they could have made it in college on their own? I'm just saying. And at the same time, it's like it hurts the soul because it tells you off the bat that there is a problem as far as how our college system is set up, that it needs to be free tuition anyway. But if white is, let's be honest, if there's one black person that's implicated in this, I'll start saying it. But for right now, it just seems to be all white parents that have gotten their children in these schools only because they have the wealth and influence to do so. Meanwhile, going down the road, there's another woman, which y'all probably do remember this. I don't know if you remember this or not. Tanya McDowell, who basically sent her son to the wrong school, but she sent her son to the school that was having better education. She got 5 years. So 5 years for sending her son to the wrong school. Now keep in mind, the one thing that a lot of people want to focus on is this right here, that she admitted that she also was selling drugs. Okay, she sold drugs, you got caught. Fine. But the fact of the matter is, with that and sending her son to the wrong school, which they accused her, and I cannot make this up, they accused her, and the number they came up with, they accused her of stealing $15,686 worth of free educational services. Okay, let's go back here. So public school is free. The only thing you really pay for is school supplies, occasional field trips, lunch money, and of course dues and graduation cap and all that crap. That's pretty much the only things you ever pay. But for the educational portion, it's free because it's paid for by the state. That's the reason we have educational bills and school boards. The simple fact of the matter is, they sit there and said that she stole government-funded public education that's free. and they put a number on it. That tells you how fucked up that is. That tells you off the bat that they didn't care. The fact of the matter is, this woman was just trying to give her son the best education she thought possible, and that she did. Yeah, she may have broken laws to do that, but let's think about it. How far as a parent would you go for your child to make sure they got what they needed to succeed? Because if you don't think for 1 second that education and proper placement doesn't get you ahead in life, you are out of your fucking mind. Now, don't get me wrong. I'll always believe in hard work. Hard work beats talent. If you put the time in, it always pays off. I truly believe in that the same way I believe in Murphy's Law. That also being said, if you don't have a prime foundation, then how do you expect to actually build the grade off that? And that's the thing about it is when it comes to educational services, you're not going to sit there and say that what she did was wrong, because I understand it. Now, do I think that she deserves jail time for it? No, I don't think she does. Why does she need to be in jail for stealing something, for supposedly stealing something that's free? Now, for the drug portion, okay, accept it for what it is. If she sold drugs, she admitted, accept it for what it is. But why the fuck is she being jailed additionally for basically helping her son out and giving him a better future? That's the thing I don't understand, when you have other parents out here who will literally pay to have their kids in these Ivy League schools, and 9 times out of 10, these kids are not that prepared to go to these schools, or they simply don't want to go at all, or they simply just want to go because their parents went and they're considered legacy children. And of course, with these colleges that are pretty much taking these on, which is amazing to me how they're not being put into these things, Ivy League, Harvard, Yale, USC, Stanford. For the simple fact of the matter is that how in the world they are not being brought to the same fold makes no sense to me. But this woman that wants to make sure her son gets the best education, gets 5 years for that. Never understand it for the life of me. But moving right along, there's also another thing I want to talk about where there seems to be a boldness with basically going against black people as far as in working areas. I mean, I talked about this a couple weeks back about GM finding nooses and things of that nature in their work areas, and it seems to be apparently at other places as well. Take a look.
Repeated racial discrimination, and the company did nothing to stop it. The lawsuit also alleges that managers and supervisors enabled and even encouraged the hate at a distribution center in Ohio. CNN national correspondent Sarah Seidner is here with all the details. Sarah, hello to you. These are some shocking allegations against UPS in this lawsuit. So walk us through what the workers say happened at that distribution center.
They are shocking. They're surprising in 2019 that this lawsuit has been filed with the allegations that are in it. Some of the employees say, one of them in particular said when he came to his workspace, there were 2 nooses that were hanging over his workspace, above his workstation, and he went and took a picture of it and alerted the company to that, and that he was almost terminated because then he posted it online. He said nothing had been done about it. This all, they say, happened at the Maumee Distribution Center in Ohio. So you have the issue with the noose, and the black workers who are there saying it's not just that they feel fear because things like this happen, which are very overt, in-your-face, racial threats, having a noose hung like that. But they say that when they would complain, or when they were trying to get promoted, when they were trying to become drivers, which is the best job they feel that is available there at the UPS Center, that they would constantly be knocked down. They were not given the promotions. There are the very few number of blacks that were given promotions at that UPS distribution center, and they're very concerned that it had to do with their skin color, not their skill. Then you have some other things that also happened. There was a video game that black workers saw people playing. It was a hangman game, and the person being hung, lo and behold, after you see this news show up at your office, is a black stick figure that they colored in and made the skin color of the stick figure black. Then you've got these text messages, Dawn, and these really disturbed a lot of the employees that found out about it. There's a group chat, and I just kind of want to read you through some of the messages. The text group chat amongst the workers, they were talking about winning the lottery, which sounds like a wonderful thing. And as they're going through talking about how great it would be to win, one of the people texted, just remember, if you don't win and you're feeling down and out, the noose is loose. And that's an early retirement option as well. And then someone replied to that, well, we can buy another noose with the winnings. These are the sorts of things that were being said around the employees who were black, that were being talked about, that were being played. And this isn't just men. This is men and women. There are 19 people who have filed suit, who have come forward. Some of them are still working there at UPS. Some of them have recently retired. But there is a great fear amongst some of those who are working at the UPS office, and also just a disappointment with the fact that they feel that they have made these complaints to management, and nothing really has been done to stop this kind of behavior, Don.
So UPS took no action when they learned about this behavior? What are they saying?
So the workers are saying they don't feel like action was taken, and not proper action. And in one instance, as I mentioned, the person who discovered the noose and took a picture of it and said, look, I brought this to the attention, according to the lawsuit, to the managers, and he was told to erase the picture, and then when he posted it online out of frustration, they threatened to fire him. So those are the sorts of reactions they said that they would get, and they were sort of walking on eggshells, if you will, at work. But UPS has responded. We did reach out to UPS to find out what their thoughts are on this lawsuit by 19 people. And I'll read to you what they said. That's in a statement. They said UPS has no tolerance for hate, bigotry, or prejudice. That was coming from the UPS Director of Corporate Communications. And he said, look, the company has strict policies against harassment and discrimination. We will not comment further on pending matters. It is not unusual for a company not to want to comment because a lawsuit has been filed.
And that's pretty much saying everything you want to know, where pretty much UPS, which I always said the corporate thing about UPS never just annoys me. It's like, you go to the director of corporate media and they sit there and say, well, we found nooses, we found games depicting black people getting hung, we've had issues where black people were getting harassed about bringing this to their attention, and we have very strict policies on this. That's not saying anything. And trust me, if that was me, if I was in there, now I'll be honest, I have a tendency to be petty, to be sarcastic. Because Lord knows, if I walk into my job and I see a noose hanging there, I'm more than likely going to take this down and go to every white person and say, which one of y'all wants to hang me? Because you're going to sit there and put it to where I can find it. I want to make sure it gets back to its owner. That's how petty I would be. But at the same time, it's disturbing to think that all you're trying to do is work when you're surrounded by those who have no problem showing their racism now. I mean, we can blame Agent Orange, we can blame Baby Huey for that. Baby Huey made it okay for you to be racist. And now you have so many of them. I mean, first with the GM plant. The GM plants I was talking about. Now it's at the UPS factories, to where, it's almost... You almost literally have to watch. Granted, you have to be careful, you have to be aware out and about in public, sure. But you never think it's your own job that the same people that you basically are being coworkers with may actually have some racist tendencies and want to put stuff up just to, I'm not gonna say get a rise out of people, but they think that's funny or they think it's comical. Let me go ahead and stress this out for all those that just might be slightly confused. There is nothing comical about a noose. There's nothing comical about a depiction of a black dude being hung. There's nothing comical about a depiction of a black person being painted as a gorilla or ape or monkey or any type of simian. There's nothing comical about saying, the fact that you can say the word nigger. I don't say the word nigger. I don't even say nigga. It just, to me, I'm not either one of those. I mean, if you want to say it, knock yourself out. I just don't say it because it's not me. It's not me. I don't feel like I'm that, and I don't know any. Because either way you look at it, it's whether you think of it as a term of endearment or whether you think of it as, taking back something that was used as an insult to us, whatever your fancy may be, it's just not me, and I don't say it. But with that being said, it just amazes me so that UPS, being a corporation that has another possible lawsuit in this, because if I was those black people that worked at that factory, I would take pictures and I would be suing. Because, let's be honest, the only way things change in a corporate atmosphere is when they have the idea that money can be lost. Not jobs, money. Because no company ever wants to be associated with being racist. Don't believe me? Look how many people pull out of Fox News. How many advertisers did, what was that Jabba the Hutt looking dude? Rush Limbaugh. Rush Limbaugh lost so many advisors that, so he lost so many advertisers that his show got pulled. And I think he's on some no-name off-air type thing now. I mean, look at Alex Jones and InfoWars. He eventually got pulled off. Laura Ingraham, she's losing advertisers. Bill O'Reilly, gone from the. I mean, and it wasn't simple fact of the matter. It was not the multiple sexual harassment suits. It was the fact that he was costing Fox money, and at the same time, in the event, this also will cause money to be lost. And that's the true reason why corporations do what they do. It's not the fact of being diverse. It's not the fact of holding up to their corporate ethical standards. It's the fact of the matter is we are bleeding cash. How do we stop the bleeding? Correct me if I'm wrong on that. Now, like I said, if I was those 19 individuals that are affected by this, guys, get together and group sue the shit out of UPS. And I guarantee you'll get a faster response than just going up to the HR department. Because trust me, as a person that tried to go to the HR department one time, I can't tell you how many times the HR department is literally designed to knock down your complaint, not actually look into your complaint. Yes, Cigna, I'm talking about you. But anyway, speaking of Fox, Fox personalities. Like I said, going back to what Rep. Oman said about, being heckled and dismantled as being things of that nature. Well, two Fox News contributors decided to, I'm not going to say air out their grievances, but I'll let y'all be the judge.
News condemning remarks from one of its own top hosts last night. Janine Pirro on Saturday questioned whether Congresswoman Ilhan Omar's religious beliefs run counter to the U.S. Constitution. Think about it. Omar wears a hijab, which according to the Quran 33:59 tells women to cover so they won't get molested. Is her adherence to this Islamic doctrine indicative of her adherence to Sharia law, which in itself is antithetical to the United States Constitution? Her comments came at the end of a week of controversy for Representative Omar and began with the Minnesota Democrat's suggestion that Jewish money is behind congressional support for Israel. Omar has drawn criticism from all quarters, but Fox says Pirro went too far.
The network said in a statement, quote, "We strongly condemn Janine Pirro's comments about Representative Ilhan Omar. They do not reflect those of the network, and we have addressed the matter with her directly." Pirro herself did not apologize, but offered this explanation. "I did not call Representative Omar un-American. My intention was to ask a question and start a debate. But of course, because one is a Muslim does not mean you don't support the Constitution."
And also, there's another, that you thought that was bad? Check this one out.
Is under fire again after more clips surfacing of the Fox News host making really offensive remarks.
All right, so these are published by Media Matters for America, and the clips are remarkable. Racist, homophobic language that he used repeatedly on a radio program between 2006 and 2011. Listen to this.
Iraq is a crappy place filled with a bunch of, semi-literate
Keep it.
But I just have zero sympathy for them or their culture, a culture where people just don't use toilet paper or forks.
Obama would kick your ass playing basketball.
Yeah, of course he would. Basketball? Come on.
He's black, say it. He's a real brother. Hey, do you think
I don't know how black he is.
Our TV President Brian Stelter is here. Over and over again, also talking about views on child rape, shield laws, underage marriage, criticizing the appearance of a sitting Supreme Court Justice, Elena Kagan.
Yeah, a lot of these comments predate his time as a Fox host, but Media Matters, this anti-Fox group that has brought these clips up, says they're reflective of his views now against women, against minorities, etc. But Carlson is not backing down, not apologizing. Here's part of what he said on his show last night.
First, Fox News is behind us, as they have been since the very first day. Toughness is a rare quality in a TV network, and we are grateful for that. Second, we've always apologized when we're wrong, and we'll continue to do that. That's what decent people do. They apologize. But we will never bow to the mob. Ever. No matter what.
So that's part of Carlson's argument. He says he's not going to back down to the mob. But Media Matters says this is important because this is Carlson in his own words. This is how he really feels. And why is this all coming out now? Because Fox is holding a big advertiser event tomorrow in Midtown Manhattan. Media Matters is already organizing a protest because it wants to challenge those advertisers not to support this kind of language, this kind of rhetoric. It's an ongoing battle, and I think there's a bigger thing going on here. We've all been talking about President Trump and his viewership of Fox News, his love of Fox News, and that means this is also about what kind of values Fox stands for, what kind of standards Fox has.
We'll show some that he worked for MSNBC during the time.
During part of that time.
Yep. So, literally and figuratively, that's two people. Judge Gene Perino and current Fox douchebag Tucker Carlson. Because anybody that names their child Tucker Carlson is, well, yeah. So, it is amazing to me how one can sit there and talk about Representative Omar, questioning her Muslim beliefs, when every Christian out there will use the Bible as a reason as a terrorist act. It doesn't mean that they don't follow. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, her whole thing is, well, she's Muslim, how's she going to follow the Constitution? The same way a lot of you fuckers claim that you're Christian and you still follow the Constitution, or the Constitution has no religious doctrine whatsoever. It allows you the right to practice whatever religion you want. It doesn't mean it goes by that religion as law for the rest of us. So, again, the whole thing that she took a shot at her was because she's Muslim. Tucker Carlson sat there and said some derogatory things, and he will not apologize for them. And you know where this all came from? That's right, Baby Huey. Baby Huey made it okay to sit there and say what's on your mind, because he has yet to face the consequences of his actions. So many other people out there look at that and they go, oh, well, that could be me too. Okay, yeah, try it. See what happens. You don't have Social Security detail. You don't have Fox News that always turns the narrative and tries to spin it. But yeah, go ahead and try it. Just see what happens. Good luck. But it's amazing to me where Fox News, like I said, this is reminiscent of what happened with what's happening with Sean Hannity, because as you can see, he stayed out the public and he's lost advertisers. Bill O'Reilly lost advertisers one after another until his show got pulled. Tommy Lauren, again, not really mentioned a lot because, again, she used to be on The Blaze with Glenn Beck, who also used to be on Fox News, and then his show got pulled because eventually Fox News's patriotic racism will never match advertiser dollars. That's the reason why Fox News right now is trying to get as many advertisers as humanly possible to support whatever narratives they got left. Because you think about it, they have what? The Five? I mean, Sam Shepard at this point is almost his way out of Fox News because he doesn't challenge way too many different people. So I'm almost certain he's on his way out. They'll never take Megyn Kelly back. I mean, after the fiasco that she had at NBC, NBC paid her full salary of $60 million to leave, and yet they dropped Joy Reid for her. At the same time, you can't go back to Bill O'Reilly; he's tainted. Glenn Beck will never come back. He's happy where he's at, spouting Christian twisted beliefs on whatever hole he's in now. And Bill O'Reilly sticking to podcasts because he's a douche. And Rush Limbaugh, somewhere in a hole, still eating that same Hot Pocket. The point I'm trying to make is just that Fox News doesn't have a lot of name brand individuals left. I mean, you have Tucker, you have Hannity, you have Judge Piero, The Five, Fox and Friends. That's probably all you're going to get. But then again, the reason why Fox is so important is because, let's be honest, Baby Huey watches them the same way a kid watches Saturday morning cartoons. You get your influences somewhere. Now, do the fact of the matter that they're not apologizing is a shocking factor? No, because we're not going to expect them to apologize. They're still going to be themselves no matter what. But it should be alarming to those who support those shows, mainly advertisers, that this is the boat you're getting into. Or you can just avoid altogether and do us all a favor and watch Fox News die off into the sunset. One can hope. But anyway, like I said, guys, I do apologize. I know it was a long show, so let's go ahead and get to the good news. Because in a world of doom and gloom, we always see the negative things, the downsides, the tragedies, and things of that nature. So I always try to end the show off with some good news. And I actually did find a few. Actually found a lot, actually. Like this one right here. Don't have a video, but this guy's named Zach Whittle, and his group of Gamers Outreach actually goes out to kids who can't leave their hospital rooms just because of their medical treatment and gives them video games. I mean, this guy and his group literally goes out to these hospitals, sometimes on their own dimes, and literally go and bring video games to kids who are just, too sick to go out, maybe not well enough to get out of the hospital room, things of that nature, and they bring them games to play. And the one thing I love about this as a gamer, which is interesting, and I just gotta find it. Let's see. Because I love the fact that sometimes science does so much, in which it's somewhere in here. But pretty much the reason why I say video games are therapeutic, no matter what nobody says. No matter what anybody says, video games are therapeutic. Whether you're in the hospital, whether you're at home, whether you just need a break from life or you're just stressed out, video games help. They don't hurt. They don't make you violent. They don't do anything of the sort. In my case, video gaming has, which I love what he's doing because these are kids. Like, kids who play video games are, and this is just me from my experience. Like, I'll use myself. It helped me out with problem solving, logical reasoning, motor skills, socialization, because a lot of the games I play are narrative driven. So of course it makes me want to, my logical and reasoning side come out, as well as the need for conversation and social skills also add to it as well. And like I said, video games help. And I love the guy for doing this, for actually taking his video games, coming up with a foundation that actually does good work and reaches out to the kids out there who just simply can't go to an arcade. Bring the arcade to them. I love that. And I love this story, and I use this for an example. For those who are interested in the lottery, especially the Powerball, which I think the Powerball of this week, I think, is 400 and something odd million. So, if you haven't got your Powerball ticket, might want to. But anyway, I want to bring this story up because this guy, he won the 273 million Mega Millions jackpot. But he left it at the store. He left the ticket at the store. And once he left the ticket at the store, somebody spotted them, handed them back to the cashier, who, when the guy came back, gave the tickets to him, and he won. And you got to think about that. And okay, first and foremost, as a rule, whatever lottery ticket you get, sign the back of it. Like, no job. Sign the back of the lottery ticket, so that way nobody can claim it but you. So that alone protects you against a lot. But the fact of the matter is, this man, I'm signed the back of his, I think is the only reason that he saved him. The only reason that he was saved was because he signed the back of the ticket. Good Samaritan my ass, because let's be honest, if you get the winning lottery ticket and the back of it is blank, legally it's your ticket. They can't sit there and say they purchased it. And that's the thing about what I always tell folks. If you get a lottery ticket, sign the back. Always sign the back and be done with it. Now, it's a funny story about this guy because he was divorced and he won. I think he won and took the cash option of $273 million for Mega Millions. He took the cash option, so $273 million. Rationally, you can't even spend that much in your lifetime. A rational person can't spend $273 million in a lifetime. Even if you're paying taxes on it, property tax, things of that nature, literally and figuratively, you cannot blow through $273 million. And, now granted, you probably could do it dumb shit, but I'm saying a logical person couldn't do it. And I love the fact that, he tells a story that he bought a few things, which we all do. Let's just be honest. We all have that. We all have that, when we buy lottery tickets, we always have that what if. Some of us even have plans. I'll be honest, I got a list. I have a list of 5 things I would do. And I'm not going to say what those 5 things are because, like I said, everybody has their own plan. But to me, it's like if I win the lottery, yeah, there's 5 things I'm going to take care of. And, I might work. I might still keep my current. I love the fact when people sit there and go, "Oh yeah, I'm still gonna work my job after I win the lottery." Shit. I can say that, but at that point, I would be the lazy. I'm not saying I'm a lazy person, but I'm saying, when there's just something about being financially secure that makes you feel better about life. Like, when the bills are covered, the house is covered, the car is covered, everything's covered, one day I will have that feeling, but that feeling has to be nirvana. To know that whatever you do, home and all that stuff is covered. There's a personal freedom in that. And I can only imagine that guy who won last week is probably enjoying that. I can't knock the guy. Like I always said best. You always want to, take care of your immediate family, try to get some things in order, maybe put a trust out, maybe get some investments going, stuff like that. And like I said, and another story which I thought was interesting, where a lot of people don't understand about lottery tickets, is that look at the state that you're in, because some states do require it to be reported publicly. The person who won the 1.5 billion, that's billion with the B, who won the Mega Millions lottery prize, finally came forward as of last week and decided to take the cash option of $877,784,124. Let me repeat that. $877,784,124. Damn. 800 mil. That hurt. Oh, I can't even say it. Now, granted, they didn't say who won. The ticket was purchased in South Carolina. The guy has came forward, but in South Carolina, you don't have to. You can actually report anonymous and win. But trust me, believe what I said. There's almost a billionaire, 200 million short of a billionaire in South Carolina right now that is loving life. And again, I can't knock it. Now, granted, if I won Powerball here, like in Tennessee, you got to report it. But I would, at that point, I wouldn't mind, because let me tell you something. From a guy who's still dealing with student loans, you don't think that the first thing I will do is go to my bank and say, I want all the nickels, dimes, and pennies you have for this amount, and I want to load it up and take it straight over to my loan guarantor and be like, here you go. And I always see them say, sir, do you know how long it's going to take for us to count out? I got all day. Now, it's the thing where I sit there and I point out, it's just the whole thing of, really, it's just, like I said, granted, the win the lottery is a long shot. It really is. But at the same time, like I said, if I won, it's always nice to dream, but like I said, it's on the back of it. So the final story we have is kind of a little bit near and dear and close to me, because it's about teachers. Now, for anybody that knows me, I am a big fan of educators, because educators have influenced my life and pretty much helped shape me into who I am. So I love when educators learn, the one thing I'll take away from educators that they've always told me throughout my life is that you have no excuse to be great. You have no excuse not to be great. And so this one individual, this one student, brought his child to class. And of course, he didn't have childcare. And his professor pretty much said, let me have the child. So he brought the child to class. And like I said, it's amazing that the professor wanted to take that extra step and sit there and say, bring your child to class. And he held the child as he's teaching. Now, I know there are other stories out there. I know I showed one earlier about another teacher that was holding a baby that was teaching in class because the mother couldn't find a babysitter. Now, number one, it is amazing to find educators who are going to sit there and say, no, you're not going to use that as a reason for not to be in my class. Bring your child. I love that. That to me says that there is hope, that educators out there still care, and that they still care about you succeeding. At the same time, it does also scream the issue of childcare, which we're not going to go into that now, but just know that, childcare is almost up there like tuition. So I understand a lot of parents, can't afford childcare, and at the same time, the state, who usually helps out with those fees, gets their budgeting slashed. So again, I understand it. Won't go really into it because, like I said, that's a whole other story itself. But I just want to show out the fact that there are teachers out there who literally go that extra mile to make sure that, no matter what, you're going to learn. And that's the reason why, and that's one of the many reasons why I respect educators so much. But that's actually going to be the end of this podcast. So thank you all guys for watching. And for all those who will be watching the playbacks, feel free to comment as well. Just do some shameless plugging before I get out of here. Aside from How the Frack We Got Here, which is usually every Saturday from 10 a.m. to noon, I also have another show, the Off Limits Podcast, where nothing is off limits, where that'll actually be happening later on between 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. tonight. always on Saturdays. My other buddies, Vaughn, A71 Spoon on Facebook, also has a few podcasts of his own. He has the I Get That Reference BST, which is a short podcast which goes over various news, videos, things of that nature, things of an interesting nature, also an interactive show. He has Rhythmness, where you can reminisce over the rhythm, where he actually goes over albums and actually grades into a 4-tier system. He actually has Random Fuck with Uncle VZ, which is basically the most out there videos and things of that nature, pretty much meant for comedy and entertainment. Sometimes to make you think and a lot of times to make you cry. But all those shows are available as far as, under the Facebook group. I Get That Reference. My other friend, who will probably be having a podcast very soon, my friend Thomas, we call him the Mountain Puncher, will also have his To Be Determined podcast, To Be Determined, which is a fitness podcast, because when you look at him, you'll see that he is very, very dedicated to fitness. But he's also dedicated. He's also very dedicated to helping others reach their physical fitness, as far as finding out what works, what doesn't work, what he believes that you can try, and things of that nature, as well as giving his own personal testimony. So that'll happen a little bit later today at 3 p.m. Central Time. My other buddy Trace has two shows of his own. He actually has the Bump Down, which is a musical podcast where he goes over what's hot on the charts, what's actually good on the mainstream and on the underground, and pretty much gives his opinion on the recording industry as a whole. If you have music that you want to have played by him or have played on the Bump Down, just please have it in a very preferably MP4 format, and submit to him, DJ King Anyway, on Facebook, and of course he'll go from there as far as even the details. He also has the Smoke of Truth, where it's an unorthodox, unbiased, no frills, in your face, check your ego at the door podcast. Now, what I say about that is because the Smoke of Truth is all that. Because Patrice O'Neal said it best: truth is like medicine. It is not designed to taste good. It is designed to make you heal. And that's what Trace brings to the Smoke of Truth, which I love so much to watch. Unorthodox but very intelligent brothers, definitely should give him a listen. And aside from that, all these shows can be found on our Facebook group, I Get That Reference, which is a group that's open to all. The only thing we ask that you like, that you share, that you talk, be social. That's the reason you're only on Facebook while it's still running. And also, all of us do have YouTube pages, so if you look up the Bump Down, I Get That Reference, Offense Podcast, How the Frack We Got Here, all those YouTube pages are live. You can like and just share and subscribe from there, and be able to see the most updated ones we have. Now, with that also being said, at the end of How the Frack We Got Here, I do use the fact of the hashtag Stay Informed. Now, what Stay Informed means that you're pretty much not taking everything at face value. You're going out there and actually finding out the information through correct research, and then whatever you find, you want to bring back to others and hopefully inspire them to do the same. Because an informed community can lead to an informed society, and an informed society can make a hell of a lot better decisions than an uninformed one, because an uninformed one got us Trump. So, with that being said, guys, thank you all for watching How the Frack We Got Here this weekend. Look forward to seeing you guys in the Outlands podcast later tonight. But again, stay informed, stay woke. Peace.